child owes you nothing. They didn't ask to be born to begin with. You chose one night's passion or one afternoon's passion, and you had a child. We don't have a target for what our educational system should produce. I mean, we have it in text, but have we really taken a look at what's happening? There's fundamentally something wrong with the way we've structured our educational system, which is too rigid, I think. It's rigid, it's not fluid, it's not, it doesn't take into consideration. I mean, a lot of our students cannot relate what they're learning in the classroom to real life. Nigerians just bring this extra layer. And I think in living here now, I think that I can put it down to how self-sufficient Nigerians have had to become. Nobody's waiting for anybody. And that's one of the things that I so it's like you solve your own problems, because you realize that really in this world, nobody is really going to solve your problems.
Eugenia, how are you doing?
Very well. Thank you for having me.
I like your name.
Right?
Yes, Tachie-Menson.
So my name, to begin with, is what I noticed when I came here, that everybody tends to call me Eugene.
Yeah.
And I say Eugene is a guy, Eugenia is a girl. But it's okay if that's what you want to go with. But it's Tachie-Menson.
It's Tachie.
Yes.
It has to be, cannot be Tachie.
Yes, because tacky is tacky. Yeah, so
the name is not Tachie at all. It's Tachie.
Yes, it's Tachie. It's Akan.
Oh, okay.
It's from Akan. One of the ways of spelling the ch sound.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
What's your local language that you are
proficient in? There's about maybe 4 of them.
Okay.
So I speak Twi, which is the unofficial national.
Say it again.
Twi.
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 I've never been able to understand.
They kind of put your lips together. Twi. Like a bird.
Because,
chirp, chirp, chirp.
Because I was going tweet.
Twi, yeah. Everybody says Twi. Yeah, it's Twi. That's close enough.
Yeah.
So I speak Twi. I speak Fanti. Fanti is my literal mother tongue.
Okay.
I speak Ewe. Ewe is my father's language. I speak it not as fluently as my mother tongue, though. Then there's Ga. Ga is the language of the part of Ghana that, or Ghanaians who can trace their roots to, is it Ile-Ife?
Okay.
Yeah. So there are some words that I can pick here because I can speak Ga. And then a bit of Ghana Hausa. I stress on that because the Hausa here is sounded a bit more refined, if you ask me.
Different ball
Different,
game.
yes. Yeah.
I like the pronunciation. Tachie. Tachie-Menson.
Yes.
You are an award-winning educator. You're a social entrepreneur. You love kids. You love young people. You love literacy and education. That's your life. You are locally and globally recognized in the U.S. State Department. You are a multi-award winning individual. And I'm sitting down here and wondering why. What drives you? Did you always want to be this? Have you always been this?
I think I've always been this, but I've had to grow. So I was born as the only girl in the family. So I was a tomboy for a while, for a very long while, until I started becoming the neighborhood babysitter.
Oh.
So that's when so the whole neighborhood, back then, this was in the 80s, we lived very communal. We're very communal then. So I lived in a neighborhood where I was older than most of the younger, and they tended to be girls. So they'll come, I take care of them, cater to their needs. When they come home, we read. In our time, again, TV was more of a luxury and watched only over weekends. So When they come, we read and we role play, and then I feed them, make sure they've had their bath. I think it was a way of my, expressing my nurturing self, seeing as I was the only girl in between boys who wouldn't allow you to take care of them. So that was how I actually started out. My love for literacy or reading came about because it was prescribed, then it became a hobby. You could not watch TV, you could only read. So before it felt like a chore. After a while, it just became second nature. If you're sat in a car headed somewhere, you're reading. In our generation, we used to sign up for, if I saw you reading Hardy Boys and I had one in the edition, I would say, oh, I've got one. So, and we always aim to borrow it on a Friday, so that you've got the weekend to try and finish it up. So yeah, that's how I that's how I started out. I mean, the way you put it, I'm just saying that really how I started out is how I'm headed.
Crazy, just listening to you now, sometimes you worry, it's like, what a lost generation. When you think about it. Yeah, again. Anyway, let's move on. So you founded the young, what's that now? That's the YEF.
Yes.
Which is the Young Educators Foundation.
Yes.
How long ago was this?
So it's about 16 years.
16 years.
Yeah.
Wow. So you've since expanded into literacy programs in, I hear, local languages too.
Yes, in the mother tongue, because it was actually the idea of USAID. So USAID had just secured funding to run a national program in Ghana under the brand Learning.
Okay.
And basically it was meant to foster the love or the concept that teaching a child in their mother tongue goes a longer way to get them to understand concepts. And that was that experience that taught, or that opened our eyes to the fact that really there's a lot to be said for teaching a child in their mother tongue. I mean, if you consider it, aside of Africa, I think all the African continent, I think all the others expose their children or their young ones to education through their language. If you think about it, it's only in Africa that we would use someone else's language under the guise of its international language. Not to take away from it, but and I was having this conversation with a friend 2 weeks ago, explaining why it makes sense to teach in the mother tongue. A child in the mother tongue here would be the language they're spoken to at home. So I would assume you are Yoruba?
I'm
wrong. Okay,
Not
I'm
quite.
wrong. But
only partially.
okay, so if that's the case, how would you say, what language are you comfortable in? Sorry.
Well, Yoruba.
Yoruba? Okay.
Yes.
What's 10 in Yoruba?
Ewa.
Okay. What's 12 in Yoruba?
Ejila.
What's 11?
Okanla.
Okay. And what's 13?
Etala.
Okay. So you would hear that for every of the numbers after 10, you would still hear the root 10 in it. I hear it was ewa, yeah? So it's basically 10 plus 3 is what you're saying.
Yeah, true.
10 plus 2, 10 plus 1. So that's how we understand numbers. But in the English language, it's a unit.
Yeah.
So a child who's in a typical village, who knows what 13 means in Yoruba, and is going to school for the first time, and you said 13 to them, it will make sense.
True.
So this was our introduction to the role of mother tongue in a child's exposure to learning. Therefore, we thought that this is great, and we ran it for a few more weeks. But yes, those who were not for it, especially those of us in the metropolis and the cities who don't get it, the point is not really about. The idea is not for those who live in cities.
True.
It's for those who live outside of the cities, who have one language that binds them, who have children who don't start school at age 6, probably start at age 10, and don't speak a word of English. And for that matter, you need to bring education or learning to them with the language that they understand, and which better than their mother tongue.
It's pretty profound. As a matter of fact, it was a topic of one of our debates a few days ago, and it was quite insightful, and it makes sense, doesn't it?
It does.
If you, we are able to speak the way we do because of certain exposure.
Yes.
As kids, our parents were to some degree educated or exposed, and they communicated with us in English, or for some, it was probably because they were born in Western lands, or whatever combination of factors. And then you visit the village, your village, and you find people who can barely, and whole adults, intelligent in many respects, right? But no English proficiency, and you could then write them off, and until you want to do certain things like numbers, and you find they're smarter than you. All right. So let me ask you, because I'm going to come back to this. I'm going to come back to the correlation between the YEF and what you're doing now, the spelling bee across Africa. But on the subject of education, do you think West African schools, but again, let's say West Africa, that's where we are, we know that well. Do you think that they're preparing children for the future? Or are we simply recycling outdated teaching from, say, the 60s or whatever? What's your thought?
Yes, my thought is that we are recycling outdated teaching. I have children in the educational system. I have taught in the educational system. We limit the definition of education to probably just learning. And therefore it's formulaic and scripted. This is why in African settings, there doesn't seem to be too much premium or value put on the social subjects. It's just the stems that we are focused on. And if you think about the fact that with the stems, you also need the social sciences to support it. The language of STEM for us in English-speaking West Africa is English. Therefore, the literacy. So I've maintained that what we're missing out in our educational system when it comes to literacy is that literacy sits on 3 prongs, if you look at it that way. So you've got the ability to read, the ability to write. Then the third one is the ability to comprehend. Our educational system doesn't focus on that. So over the years, our educational system has remained sort of stagnant, whereas those we actually copy from have evolved their educational system, which allows for a lot of flexibility, takes into accountability, learning styles of different children. Whereas in our time, one would be called stupid because they were not getting 10%, minimum of 10, or the minimum score required in, say, mathematics. Those we copied from have evolved from there and moved on to, it's probably the learning style or the teaching style. And we are not catching up to that methodology. So you would realize that, however, having said that, a lot of our students, when we release them into the world or into these spaces that are more accommodating of some of the challenges that humans would come with, they thrive
and blossom.
But don't do that here. So that tells you that there's fundamentally something wrong with the way we've structured our educational system, which is too rigid, I think. It's rigid. It's not fluid. It's not, it doesn't take into consideration. I mean, a lot of our students cannot relate what they're learning in a classroom to real life, for example.
Yeah, too theoretical.
Too theoretical, to the fault, to the detriment, actually, of our own society. So you end up, hiring, because I love working with young people, but God knows that it's beginning to wear me down.
Yeah.
The things they don't know when they come out of school. Concepts they have never heard of. And yet they say, I'm a graduate. And you ask yourself, where are we headed? Are we headed anywhere?
I kind of feel, if you feel that way about Ghana, it's much worse in Nigeria. But again, I could be wrong, but most people will agree. So if you had the power to delete one thing, something fundamental, a common practice in our school system today, as you know it, you just take this out, this one thing, what would that be and why?
It sounds like one of your debate questions. But I think, and this has been a global debate and a conversation, I think examinations, the concept of examinations are meant to be an assessment, I believe. You're done with studying what I gave you. We just want to find out how well you're doing. In our setting, when I say our, I mean Ghana, continuous assessment has no place in a student's development or academic work. And I think that that's what should be added. And I'll give you my reason why. During COVID, when examinations could not be written, students who were eligible to attend universities from international schools could only rely on their continuous assessment results.
Yeah.
So those who were from public schools had nothing and had to resit.
Literally losing a year.
Losing a
in
year.
the process.
In and of itself, things can happen to you and you might lose a year. But the point is that continuous assessment also gives you a story behind the student. You begin to understand whether this is a student who's been doing very well, but maybe something happened, or this is a student who hasn't been doing well and suddenly they've turned around. What could be causing it? This gives you the educator who's basically being like a scaffolding to the child. It gives you insights as to how to even tailor their learning. I wouldn't say we should take out examinations. What I'm suggesting is that we need to begin to put some weight on continuous assessment. Make that count for something. So if, for example, we're going to write the national exam, the WASI, and we're going to write English paper, and on that day, the student fell ill. Or, something happened and they couldn't commute because they've got to commute. Are you saying that they failed English? And this might be an A student. Whatever school they're going to go into or university they're going to go into, are they saying they cannot use the assessments that have been done in previous terms to give them a second chance? They have to rewrite it. They have to sit home and write it the next year. My challenge has been examinations, and how rigid they are in our setting. In again, as I say, it was Hugh Masekela who said that we Africans have done a woeful job of even copying the onus of the ideas that we are emulating. We say we emulate. They evolve almost every academic term, and yet we're still stuck in the 60s kind of mindset and thinking. And so for me, if you ask me, I would say introducing rather to soften the blow on, because when you listen to some of the nuances and the effects that these harsh systems have on our young people. I think I was listening to a podcast last year there was, or was it this year? This year it was like the trekking some of the students have to do to go write the exams, and they got there and I think the exam center wasn't open, so they were asked to come the next. It's like, why are we putting our children through this? What did they do wrong? And if we don't begin to include young people in our spaces, and that has been another thing that I scream about, that we don't, when we're doing things, we don't think of our young people. We think for them. We don't involve them in the thinking process, that they have brains, and they have opinions that need shaping. I agree. But if we also sit them down, and whilst we're making these decisions, obviously, I'm not saying let's ask them whether we should have exams or not. They would say no.
Yeah, we know what they'll say.
We know they'll say no. But what we're saying is that if it is your fault as the examining body that the child could not take the exam, or the student could not take the exam, why do you penalize them so they write it the next year? It's your fault.
Yeah.
So you pay for it. That way, you're also teaching the students how to be responsible for their own actions. Otherwise, this cycle is not going to break. They will finish school and will say, well, that's how we were brought up. So that's what works, regardless of the amount of exposure they may have. They come into the system and they have to adjust to the brokenness of the system.
Here's my frustration. We're raising these kids literally, or maybe virtually, to end up in the job market. The African educational system doesn't seem tailored to help young people become entrepreneurs, become business people. It's just to get a job.
Yeah.
Now, if that is what the educational system is tailored at, wouldn't it make sense to tailor it in such a way that how they go through school now is a reflection of how they will go through their working life? I mean, most organizations, most employers don't set exams for you every 3 months or stuff. Assessment is continuous,
yes,
right? It's daily. It's every day. You are giving. So why can't schooling be somewhat like that?
Well, I guess, and it's a concern I share as well. And I guess if you read up on the origins of education, that was how it started. It started to provide a workforce. Yeah, that's how it started with the Westerners, and over time it evolved.
We assume that the current system of education is as old as time, but it isn't really. The current system, the current structure is pretty recent.
Yes.
Whole generations had been educated, but it was nothing like this.
Yes, nothing like this. I remember when I look at the number of subjects my youngest was doing when she was in primary school, I said, I just did maths and English and science. That's all I read. And in between, we had a lot of theater and drama, and I didn't know it was called literature back then, but literature, and that was my introduction to Nigeria, by the way. But today they're doing all these subjects. 22, like 22 subjects. Like, you're only 9. Carrying all these books. I'm like, to what end? And the way I try to. So I try to be pedestrian about it, and I say, okay, so you're learning all these things. Are you going to be solving any Einstein-like problems? Because, why are we putting them through all this? Why are we thinking? I think this is where I think this is where one of the problems is. That, first of all, those in charge of education do not understand the point of education. I mean, you mentioned that the structure as we see it now is not what it used to be. Do they know that? One, I also think that we don't have a target for what our educational system should produce. I mean, we have it in text, but have we really taken a look at what's happening? For example, we say that, the internet is bad and it's not good for young children, should not have access to it. But is it bad? When we were growing, we were told TV was bad as well. Is it bad, or is it the choices, the options that are available, or what we do with it that ends up being bad? Because, and unfortunately for us adults, we cannot stop our young people from accessing the internet. It's not possible. What is possible is rather exposing them to the dangers. Why it's okay to be on the internet, but know that this is what you can't do. Yeah. This is what you can't. It's almost like it's almost like wanting to hold your child's hand till they are 21 to cross a street. When do you begin to teach them how to cross the street? At a point you've got to, so that it builds their confidence as well. I think our young people, when we pit them against, in international competitions, because I attend them, they fall on bravado. It's not really because they know. It's just a lot of encouragement and knowing that, I'm representing my continent, and this expression I can never say, but I love it. And Nigerian, they carry last.
So we call it bluffing your way through.
Yes,
through it all.
Basically just bluffing your way through. And I feel in certain cases, in order to check the political correct boxes, we sail through. But when we get to the top, or we barely make it through, so that we're all excited.
Yeah.
We're not too far from the top, but really, are we putting in the work? My 12-year-old niece in Canada, for her maths assignment, she was given, and I asked her to share it with me, because when she was talking to my daughter, I couldn't believe it. She was given, it was a problem math, right? So it said, plumber makes, 10,000 naira a year, doctor makes 20,000, and let's say a dressmaker makes 30,000. Plan a budget for them to live on for the year. Because that's what is happening in real life, and that was a math assignment. We wouldn't give this to our children here.
Yeah.
Why not?
Okay.
Why not?
X and Y.
Yes, X and Y. Axis. X and Y axis.
To your point, a couple of centuries ago, even for learning as complicated as medicine, if you are going to study medicine, your family literally shipped you off at about 15 to go work with a doctor. And you travel everywhere with him. Yeah. And that was how you became a doctor yourself. But we'll come back to that, which also brings me to the question I was going to ask was about parenting. You're a parent, as I am as well. And you touched on it. I was going to ask you a question. What are the lies that we parents ourselves are telling our children in terms of their education and training?
We're telling them that they're not good enough if they don't get a paper or qualification from the West. Not even the East, because I like it in the East, but from the West. We are also sowing seeds of an over-bloated sense of relevance, when really there's nothing. This is middle class I'm referring to, by the way. Middle class, and I've been ECOWAS Francophone and ECOWAS Anglophone, so I know what I'm saying. I've worked with the two groups. And we cocoon our children. Before coming here, I had a meeting with one of my members of staff. We had just finished a spelling competition where a student was given 3 opportunities to get their word right, and they got it wrong. And the mother walked up to my staff and said, I think you should allow her to go through. It's not a big deal. In the full glare of all the other students who put in so much effort. It's how we want to fight our children's battles. It's called helicopter parenting, and there's also a lawnmower parenting, where you're just, you're down there to pick them whatever, whenever, just say the word, just give us a call. And dangerous as it sounds, we choose to be oblivious to it until I've heard of stories, as I've sat on boards of PTAs, I've heard of stories of first year university students abroad who, after the first semester, just decided they couldn't cope anymore because it was their first time that they had to figure out anything for themselves. How do I wake up early and go to college, go for studies? How do I do my laundry? How do I manage my time? Because here, everything is done for them. We have house helps from here till Zanzibar who will do everything for them. At what stage are we introducing the concept of responsibility for our children? They're not even responsible for not doing well. You don't even hold them responsible for not doing well academically. So let's not even talk about what happens at home then, because we know there's the driver, there's the washer, there's the cook, So life is pretty much laid out for our young ones. So we have that batch. Then we have those who are in the public, or let me say the public school system. Yes, the public school system. So in the public school system, again, is two-pronged for me. It is both in Nigeria and Ghana. So you have privately run public school systems. So they are privately run, but they run the national curriculum. They are privately run. Good. Then you have public schools that are run by the government or the state. So both of them, we call them public school. Okay? They are the ones who don't have, who hunger but don't get, who want opportunities but are always denied of it. But guess what? They're the ones we're going to find in our MDAs, our ministries, and their agencies. They're the ones we're going to find in as I say, the passport offices, the NEPAs, and the who-nots. And that feeling of we were sidelined by society, and society here it doesn't matter whether you're their mother or father, you denied them. And we are already paying for it, where they've become very, for both of them, they've become indifferent to what happens. They're not as patriotic. They will ask you, who patriotism ep is what they'll ask you. We eat it. We patriotism now. We go chop. So, as parents, I say that if we look at the generation before ours, we're Generation X. So the generation before ours and the generation after, we're the weakest link. We didn't do a good job of connecting, maintaining and don't get me wrong. There were things that happened. When we were growing up, the things that our parents did to us or for us that wasn't in the best of our interest, but they didn't know better. They did not know better, and that's why they vested so much in our education. I think our parents, considering the limitations of the time, gave us the best and expected that when we bring the next generation, we'll continue. Basically, we dropped the baton. We totally dropped it. This generation wants nothing to do with even us, let alone their grandparents.
And now we are the parents of at least the late stage Gen Zs.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Yes, we are.
I think with the millennials in between.
Yeah.
It's talking about parenting. Hypothetical. Picture your daughter says, "Mom, I don't want to go to the university." What do you do?
Oh, and I'm so happy you raised that. It's tertiary education you want. It's not limited to university. It's just that we have this closed mind that it's university or suicide. It's tertiary. So long as it's not the university, but it's tertiary, we're good. Because you do need that. You do need that tertiary level of education. And that's where the polytechnics will come in, or the skilled professions, would come in, will become a journalist or whatever it is that you may not. I think today you find journalism in universities, but in my time there was no journalism in universities, and I wanted to study journalism and public relations, so I didn't do university initially. And I think that today we as parents of this generation, we need to rid our minds of this. I say that we rather, because I don't get it, because our parents were in direct contact with the colonizers, but we show more of relics of the colonial system than our parents. Our parents were the ones who had all the opportunities to go abroad, live there, and probably become citizens, but opted to come back home to build their own nation. We have failed our nation, and yet we still want to leave it and go and find greener pastures elsewhere. We have failed our educational system, but we will take our children abroad to go and study. And this, again, along the lines of parenting, I have many nieces and nephews. I come from a large family. I have many nieces and nephews who've said to me that, Auntie Eugenia, if my parents had asked my opinion, who schooled abroad, they went to some of the best universities, my parents had asked my opinion, I would have said I wouldn't go. And I asked why. I said, mainly because we had classmates. We didn't have friends. Don't feel like they belong. But here we are thinking, we're giving them the best. Why can't we create the best on our own continent? The West is always coming here for the best holidays. What does it take to create the best here? Not much. It's a change of mindset.
Pretty deep.
It's sad.
Pretty deep. What's one thing about African parenting, in your opinion, that most people don't want to hear? One truth. That we don't know all the answers. That we are vulnerable. That we make mistakes. That we're human. And so we can make mistakes for that matter, but we don't want to talk about it, especially in front of our children or to our children. We will not admit when we're wrong. We will not even admit we're ever wrong. We are your parents. We know what is good for you. And the children see right through us. They hear us when we're talking on the phone, you see. I have a very special, I love my relationship with the children, even especially the children of Nigeria that I've come to meet. It's like I never left Ghana. This is because I have learned from them that it's really okay to make mistakes and accept it. You're human. When you make children believe you're superhuman, they're not able to relate to you. They just feel like, oh, okay, you're perfect. And then they feel more intimidated. This is why we've dreaded our teachers, because they were perfect. How come you don't know the simple thing? But you learned it. That's why you know. I'm now learning. So pace me through it. It's that mindset with parenting where I know it all. I've got to get it right. Yes, we've got to get it right, but you don't know it all. And accepting when we don't know it, to say, I don't know. I think the other thing that we carried over from our parents' generation in parenting to ours is also being hypocritical. No doubt.
And our children, again, they see through it. There are certain topics that are taboo. We don't talk about. What do I want? I want to be mindful of the word that I choose, but you know what I mean. The taboo topics.
Yeah.
Religion would be one.
Yeah.
You don't question. My last daughter, when she was about 10, she's the one I had the most relationship with. We went to church one day, Sunday school. She was about maybe 7 or 8. And we came back, she was very sad. And I said, well, what happened in Sunday school today? She said, the story I heard today, I didn't like it. So what was the story about? So it was about Job. Job's suffering.
Yeah.
And she just, so she obviously was broken down to her like a child. So she said, and Jesus, and Jesus saw Job suffering this much. And I said, well, we all go through suffering. And so it's not that Jesus didn't care for him. He said, yes, but why would he take his children away? And then my immediate response was, but he had children again. And she said, I will never forget it. She said, so if you lose me right now, is it okay? Because you'll get another one. I was quiet. Because I said, that's deep.
Yeah.
Yes, what are you saying? Is it okay?
Pretty deep.
Is it okay for me to die was that the point? Why did he have to go through? And I just said to her, I'm sorry, I don't know. So when we come back to church next Sunday, ask your Sunday school teacher. But I was like, but these are things that we wouldn't encourage our children to talk about.
Yeah.
But it was true. Why did one man have to go through that to prove a point? Did he have to lose his children? Yeah, she said, her line was, Jesus went too far. Did he have to go through all that just to prove a point? And so, as I say, religion is one thing we don't go into. Intimacy is another that we don't get into. And it's how I follow some of these. I follow a lot of Nigerian content creators. I love them. You guys are very creative. And, there's this particular one who's always showing his PTSD moments, when his parents were raising him. God, he is crazy. He's called Larry or something like that. And it was basically how you don't have a say. You just do not have a say as a child, and everything is about, why are you making me waste money? You said you like ice cream and I bought you, or maybe you said you like biscuits and I bought you it was on sale and I bought you a packet. And then the child said, I changed my mind. Because children can be that fickle.
Yeah.
In the moment I want, and it was basically throwing invectives and cussing him out, and, we laugh at it, but I think, why do we put our children
Lucky
through this?
thing, you didn't have your head slapped around the place.
That's the other thing I noticed. People are quick with their hands. In a heartbeat. It was slapping in a heartbeat.
Here's the thing. Parenting. I mean, you talked about our own parents.
Yeah.
I don't know about your parents. At least my dad used to apologize, which was,
unusual.
which was, pretty unusual. My mom, no way.
Yeah.
No
That's
way.
the norm. That's the norm.
My mom never apologized.
Why should she apologize?
And then you play with your kids. There is this thing that happens in my house. I have kids who I have my first kid has gone over the teenage stage, and he sees how I respond to the kids, and sometimes they're like, sometimes the kids are like,
Why are you being so soft?
like, Daddy, like you come and drum on my tummy. I just go drum on my tummy. Taboo. And it's kind of like beautiful because we took all the negatives from the way we were, our era, and we try not to replicate those things with our kids. All right, let's try and move on. But in moving on, because we are still talking African parents, how do you think African parents are doing with the change in society? You just mentioned intimacies, same-sex conversations, depression, frustration. How are they doing?
We're not doing well. We're not doing well. We're conflicted.
Yeah.
We're very conflicted. And I do empathize with us because we're caught. See, it's our generation, yeah? We came from the typewriter generation.
Yeah.
Okay? And we've gone now to typing on the phone. We've been through a lot of changes. We're very conflicted. In the one breath, we love our children and want the best for them. In another breath, we want to, or we end up smothering them.
Yeah.
with our choices, our preferences. We're not prepared to, or we're not prepared to bring them up in a manner that it's their life. I believe that in a lot of engagements that I've been having with these children, you can tell those who are independent minded, and the kind of children who can engage themselves till whatever time their parents come to get them. And you can tell this child will survive. Knows how to keep themselves going. And then there are those who, after a few hours, if their parents are not around, tantrums, And people will say, oh, they're young, they'll grow out of it. But if you don't curb it, because you're scaffolding, and you as a parent are meant to be the scaffolding. And if you see that, the building is going that way, and you say, oh, but when we get to the lintel level, it will straighten, and you're not doing anything, you're just saying it. But what are you doing to ensure that they grow out of it?
Yeah.
So we are not coping very well with the advancement with technology. Most of us can barely finish sending a WhatsApp message and understand how to use it. Our children with our locked phones will take our phones right now and do so many things with it that will blow our minds away. But in the other breath, we also think that the internet is not good for you. I'm not saying that the internet is 100% good. I mean, it's just like sitting in a car.
It's a dangerous place, we know, for everyone.
It's dangerous for everybody. Sitting in a car is also dangerous, but we do it because of certain maybe things we've put in place. And that's what we're saying, that begin to put things in place where you trust your child. You trust your children that in the event of a challenging situation, they can fend for themselves. I don't think we're raising children who young people can fend for themselves.
I agree.
Middle class. I keep saying middle class because when you get out of middle class, the scenario is different. The other ones walk from home to school and it could be over miles. You will see a 6-year-old and she's walking to school by herself. Middle class is where the problem is. Children are dropped literally in front of their classrooms. You don't even let them walk a bit from the gate because I don't want anything to touch them. We drop them in front of their classrooms. Or if we don't, we park and then we hold their hands. And I'm talking 10, 11-year-olds cannot cross the street. Don't know that it's look left, then right, then left again before you cross. That's how we were taught.
And if a teacher so much as scolds them, we'll probably go there and give them a hiding, a slap around and stuff.
And so some of the good things from our generation that I've brought over to this one when I'm raising my children is whenever my child comes home and says, my teacher did this to me, what did you do?
Maybe.
That's the first question. What did you do? And not take the child's word as final. Because a head of school ever said to me, take not everything your child says about us, literally. So we do not take everything they tell us about you because our children talk when they're in school. The things they see at home and take to school. I think we're not coping well, and and I think it needs a mindset change.
So, I mean, understandably, the bulk of our conversation has been about education, and now we've veered into parenting because they are intertwined, aren't they?
Yeah.
I'm eager to ask you more general interests matters, what you think. You just share your opinion, share mine. But before that, you did mention that you are an only girl.
Yes.
Surrounded by the boys.
Yes.
Did they make you play football?
Never. They couldn't get me to play football. I don't know.
Okay,
I don't
just
know why.
A basic kick around in the house.
Yeah, kick around. So I played what we used to call it counters football.
Okay.
So the soft drink.
Yes.
Yeah, that I was good at.
Call it table soccer.
Yeah, with the pen top.
Yes.
Yeah. That I was good at.
Okay.
But they were a bit too aggressive for me.
You thought you were good at it.
Oh, thank you. Maybe we should clear this table and just see whether I'm good at it. Yeah.
What was it being a tomboy growing up? Parents nowadays who might have to deal with, situations like that, what do you advise them? I mean, these are very different times.
Yes.
And
Very
and,
different
and
times.
some fear
Yes.
that the idea of the tomboy
Lean towards
and the more Western you are, people feel that the kid is in another body or stuff like that. What would you advise parents, particularly parents who are just confused about how to deal with all this? How do you probably have never had to deal with it, but
No.
you'd probably know somebody or you've read about somebody. But
yes, and I've
what would
lived
you
it.
advise? Yeah.
I think what I missed, or what maybe my mother, or I would tell my mother if she were to ask me this question, would be that. So for me, there was nothing sexual about it. I was just used to being with boys, But the minute I hit puberty is when we should have the conversation about why you cannot as a girl always be seen in the company of boys who are not even your own relatives. I would say be mindful. This is because I've never said this before, but I've been sexually abused as a kid because I was always with boys. And so because of that, for my own daughters, I've been very protective. Even their male cousins, you don't do sleepovers. You're always within my purview. I can see everything that you're doing because kids are, when I think about it now with what happened to me, just being kids. Boys were being naughty, and for a girl, I didn't understand what was going on. I was just uncomfortable with what was going on. I just thought, I don't like what you're doing. It's not fun. I'm not enjoying it. But you seem to be enjoying it. So
even siblings have been known to experiment.
Yes. And it's because of the era we came from. We couldn't watch anything. We couldn't read such things. And their idea was that if you read about it, you would practice it. But with what I did with my children, I noticed that it rather opened up for conversations. Why can't we have, what's wrong with having sex before time? I don't use religion to raise my children. This is because if then they tell you they are irreligious when they grow up, then you have nothing to fall back on. But it's more, I use the sciences and common sense. So you cannot have, sex before you're responsible because you can get pregnant. And when you do get pregnant, who's going to take care of the baby? Bottom line is what I tell my girl. That's the bottom line. That's why you can't, there's protection. Yes, but it's only 99%. Do you want to risk it? And then I make sure that we're watching movies along those lines, a teenage pregnancy, and so it will put you off. Well, it did put them off. It put them off. But the point I'm making is that parents with children who have, and most of today's children are curious, I think that bring the conversation to the fore. And I think that let's be mindful of our girls, but more mindful of our boys. We grew up in a generation where the boys were left to their own devices. Just do anything you want. But it was the girls. You can't get pregnant. You can't do this. You can't do that. And the boys, it was nothing. Just go and play football and make sure you do well. Do well in your studies. Make sure, you make money so you can take care of your wife, and that's it.
Yeah. Fathers have been known to pat their kids in the back for impregnating someone else's daughter.
And it's beginning the good thing about social media is that men are now opening up. I think the millennials are opening up. And I know of someone who's going through a health crisis and in my family, and we had a conversation, and I said, listen, you need to take care of yourself, as in make time for yourself, go away sometimes, but we need you around. So just look out for yourself. The medication, everything's fine, but do things that will make you, happy and relaxed and whatever, And his first line was, I'm tired. And I said, I get it. You're tired of taking care of everybody, looking out for everybody. Everybody has a problem. He's the one we turn to because you're the head of the house. You're the man. but he was tired. He just said, I'm tired. We don't realize that it is tiring for men to be the leaders we say they should be. They have no one to lean on, so to speak. A man cannot afford to cry in our settings. And this is where I say fathers should let their children see them cry. More so their sons. Crying is not a sign of weakness. Crying is release of negativity as well, release of tension. You don't only cry when, most men I've seen cry in my household would cry only when they've lost their loved one, and normally it will be their mother. That's it. They wouldn't cry beyond that. And again, not everybody is meant to cry, but I think the point we're making is that we need, in terms of, what to tell today's parents as regards being the model that their children will look up to. And I always say that let's stop telling our children, or let's stop telling these influencers and stars that, oh, you're my child's model. No, you, the parent, are the child's first model. You're the first model.
I like your answer. There's a little tweak to it again, because this much of it is conventional, parenting the boy and all of that. But aren't we? I'm thinking of, people say the term that some people use to describe it is the feminine. So it's the masculine female. There's also the feminine male.
Yeah.
I don't know which one is more rampant. There are different ways. I don't know whether you've come across this, whether you've ever had occasion to see that up close from a relative or a neighbor and all of that. And if you did, well, what would you advise in the case of a feminine male?
It's tough to speak to. Yes, I've seen and experienced it. When I say experience, I don't mean I've lived it. Experienced as in I've engaged them. And the way this is how I see it, that we are vessels as parents, okay? We're vessels through which our children come into the world. And we're meant to give them the best training in terms of exposure and everything that we can. I know that the Bible says you train up a child the way they should grow, but it didn't acknowledge that there are outside influences. The hope is that when they depart from how you've raised them, they will come back to base. That's the hope. But I feel like in today's era, there's so many options out there that challenge the norm. And therefore, we parents are not as equipped to handle the truth that comes out, that our children are not really our children. They are citizens of the world. You don't own them. After a certain age, really, I say from teen years, they're not yours anymore. I mean, they bear your name, but you can force them to do things. That's the thing, you're forcing them to, in quotes here. You're making them do until they leave you, and they'll do what they want to do. So that we've known of students who, or children of people who, the father insists, you must do medicine. Okay, I will. They're done, and then, okay, I'm done. Now I want to go do music. What are you going to do? Sexuality these days is such a sensitive, very sensitive space. Whether it is learned, whether it is groomed, and the grooming happens, one of the places it happens is boarding schools, or whether one is born with it. People challenge that last one. I have seen a few cases where, yes, you can tell and it was more feminine male. Yeah. The gestures and the interests, are there. What do you do? It's to I think, again, it's when you think of the 5 stages of depression or grief, where you go through it all as a parent because this is what you expect, that you expose your child to the same thing and they follow. But they may not. And there are no guarantees in life. If we begin to accept it, that, listen, my child may not even be the one who, in my old age, will be there for me. Then you begin to make your neighbor's child your own. You begin to care for other people because there are no guarantees. Your child owes you nothing. They didn't ask to be born to begin with. You chose one night's passion or one afternoon's passion, and you had a child. They've come. They don't need to follow what you're asking them to do. You will make them because it's your responsibility. We live in a society that expects that. But as they grow, if the kind of exposure they get, and this is why some people will say, I will not have my child exposed to the maybe Western culture, take them to get educated until post-tertiary. Because it also has a lot to do with their grooming.
Certainly.
So if you let them go that quickly, know that, again, they are even more worldly citizens than had they finished with you. This thing of being in a hurry to send off our children away compounds the challenges that we have. But I say, and I guess someone will say, if you haven't experienced this, it's easy to say or advise parents that it's their choice at the end of the day.
Yeah.
It will reflect on you, yes, but only for a while. If you did your bit, you've done your bit. Our children, today's generation tell us that, what they say, we are not our grandparents and we are not our parents. It's almost like a movement, and it's here to stay. Bottom line, what they're trying to tell you is that I'll do it my way. And sometimes their way may be better than ours. Sometimes they may come back from. So when I hear parenting, my child can never look the other way, as in become, sexually interested in the same gender, and I laugh in my head and say, you mean you pray? And that's what you mean, because you cannot not make them. You don't know whether they were born that way, whether when you send them off, they've been groomed. And again, there's the other part of the conversation that people ask, should it matter? Should it matter that their sexual interest is not aligned with what you believe in? Are they not your child? Are we not all children of God? Are you not a child of God? Do you not sin? Why are you coloring your child's sin as a different one? And I'll end by saying that I've had this conversation with mine, and again, as I say, I never use religion. I use common sense. And I say, listen, I have girls, and I say, listen, sex in that, in your same gender is more dangerous because you cannot protect yourself. Basically, the bodily fluids you're going to be exchanging, and you don't know where they've been for same sex. It's, you're basically exposing yourself to, as my grandmother used to say, it's an open sore for women. You're exposing yourself to anything they have, and you might end up living with it. For that reason, I'm against it. If I have nephews, we haven't had the conversation because they won't come to me, but should they? What I say is that, well, that end is meant to excrete, not receive. When you abuse it, it becomes loose and gives you health problems. If that's how you want to live, by all means.
But there is a place for family values in all of this conversation.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. I totally agree.
It helps.
It does. And this is why, ideally, mother, father, both parents are on the same page. Same page here typically might even lead to being from the same belief system, being from the same culture, because culture plays a lot. once you can agree on those. I mean, this is a society, and I speak African, where when we get married, before we get married, we don't even talk how many children are we having, how do we want to raise them, where will we live. We don't really talk about those things. It's just a matter of course. Okay, we ended up having 5 children. We wanted 3, but we had 5. Okay. Where will they school? All those things. It will come as we go along. We are not intentional. So as you say, values. Again, I speak more at middle class, where our values are very westernized now. So what values are we projecting? What family values are we projecting? If you ask the average middle class kid, and I've met a few, what does your name mean? And they have these beautiful la 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 la. I like the names. They don't know what it means.
Yeah.
And for me, that's the beginning of the loss of value. Because John doesn't mean anything but someone in the Bible, unless it's a Jon. Mary is also mother, but if someone is called, Donald, for example, what does it mean? But Africans are intentional with our names. Our names have meanings, especially Nigerian names. I think I learnt about Mo Abudu's full Mo. I was asking, what does Mo stand for? And I was told it has something to do with wealth resides here. I was like, oh my God, you're calling it into existence. Africans are intentional with our names, but we give away these values with pet names, and then we erode. Basically, we have through maybe, I don't know, I don't want to blame parents, but you hear, well, my child cannot speak my language because I am from this tribe and my husband is also from this tribe. So we end up speaking English with the child so that there's, but there's a point to mother language or mother tongue, because there are certain things you would want to say that you can only say in your mother tongue. English will lose its essence. 1, 2. It's not everything you want to say to your child in public that everybody must hear.
Yeah, true.
When you speak English, we all understand. That's why the Chinese, the Koreans, wherever they are in the world, they still speak their language. So I come back to you on the values and I ask you, middle class Africans, what values are we projecting? Don't forget that at the base of it all, I've said we're conflicted.
Yeah.
We are very conflicted. If we accept that, I think we will begin to first forgive ourselves and then begin to make changes. We have to accept that we're conflicted. We are a result of our environment. Our parents gave us the best, but I think we didn't assimilate well. We kind of leaned in towards one side too much. I can eat, and I love amala. I eat amala anywhere. But I hear today's children will say, yucky food. Oh my God, that's your culture. Rice is secondary, really. It's not your culture, necessarily.
So, to your point, interracial marriage is on the rise. It's inevitable.
Yes.
Do you sometimes, along the lines of what we're saying, fear for our value system, or do you contemplate what the next generation of Africans would look like?
Yeah. So, I don't think what I've noticed with interracial relations or relationships that produce children is that the children tend to lean on the African side because they're considered black anyway. So they're not welcome there. So that is a plus. In fact, they tend to be louder and want to identify with the continent more than those of us on the continent, or more than those of us who are not interracial byproducts, so to speak. The kind of African going forward that I think we're going to have we will be seeing a lot more probably mixed race children rise to the top. I feel like they are louder because they are the underdogs. In our society,
underdogs in a big pool.
Yes, in a bigger pool. But in our society, because of their color, skin color, we give them premium.
Yeah, top dogs. Yeah.
Yes. And so, we give them a pass for a lot of things. And so I can see them rising to the fore. What I feel like they may not do, and I'm using may because no one knows the future, it's probably not. They may be able to fend for us, fight for us more, because I don't think that we are fighting for Africa's interest as much when we sit at the negotiation table with the West. We're not. But I feel, and I've got a number of mixed race friends and relations, they tend to be very incensed. I mean, they're the ones who are loudest when there seems to be preferential treatment in their interest, the ones I know. Why are you, or if you call them Ojibo, or in Ghana would say Obroni, why are you calling me that? I'm not. But in our eyes, you are. You don't have melanin as much as we do, so we call you that. And I see probably the Black African. I see it like a rainbow nation concept, or rainbow what do you call it, continent maybe. But what I'm positive about is that, but with a sense of pride from our let's say mixed race citizens.
Yeah.
There's just this hunger, an unspoken anger, that they tend to, especially when they have to go and experience the other half of their identity and realize that they're not considered as members.
So back to what you had said earlier on about the fact that, the kids are global citizens, and and in Yoruba they will say "omo joba," which can also be very derogatory of, but essentially means governments, people.
Okay.
Well, I wonder what you think. Our governments here, do you think they're truly interested in raising smart, creative children, or is there emphasis on raising compliant humans more?
I think that the narrative or the script is different from the narrative. We want to do one thing, but in another breath, we want compliant people because that's all we know how to do. Just beat them into compliance. Intimidate them into compliance. Why won't you do this? Do not question the system. But I struggle with the concept of government being a group of people that we don't know. We are government. Whatever we see at the top is a reflection of who we really are. The corruption we all complain about, wait till you get there. We really are one and the same people. So what we see at the top is really happening on probably micro and macro levels at the bottom.
Yeah.
So when we're voted into office, or let me not say voted necessarily, when we find our way in office, it's just a continuation. But we're now emboldened because now we have power, But it works for the interest of control when you have a compliant people than an assertive people. I mean, we see that all over the world. We're even seeing how it's manifesting in no other place than the United States.
Yeah.
You
can see the move towards trying to enforce compliance.
Yes. Bottom line, it almost feels like you're looking at something happening in North Korea.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen, whether it be true or conspiracy theory or not, that even COVID gave governments an opportunity to do a trial run of getting people compliant, where they can
the world complied.
Yes, they shut you down, and that is
and that was it. That was it. I mean, I never in my wildest dream, I have thought that the world was shut down. You couldn't get out of your house. Nobody could.
It's a sign of the times, to be honest with you. Let's just, as we wrap up, let's look at general interests. So I'm going to come back to what you're doing in Nigeria. You're a Ghanaian. But sitting down with you, I tend to forget you're Ghanaian.
I love to hear that.
Yes, I tend to forget. I have to remind myself, because you sound like a properly educated Nigerian
or African.
African. Yeah. I think more so African. I know we have our dialectual differences.
Yeah.
But for some of us those of us who have been blessed to rise above the provinces, provincialism and all of that. When we talk, we're just Africans.
Yes, we are.
Right.
Yes, we are.
I want to ask an interesting question. I've had some great Ghanaian friends and neighbors over time.
Okay.
I just want to hear what kind of impressions. I know, and I know you love Nigerians, but you know, sometimes you've had and I believe this is true of many nations, even in Ghana, but Ghanaians are our cousins. That's a general belief here. Yeah. But what are some of the most frightening impressions of Nigerians that you've had, or you've had people express?
That when you get to the airport, you'll be kidnapped. My mother still calls and, "Are you okay? Is everything okay? Are you sure you have children? You don't want to come back?" I'll say that's the first. That when you get to the airport, you'll be kidnapped. Your passport will be, like, by the time the immigration is done with your passport, it's not yours. You'll be holding another passport. And also, I'll say that's the first, and that's the main one. In my family, and this is third generation. First generation was in Nigeria, so I have Nigerian cousins, relations. Second generation never step foot here. I am the only one in the third generation, and as I say, I come from a large family who stepped here. I was the first. When I was first coming, I've always been intrigued by Nigeria, because I was introduced to Nigeria, Africa through literature. It started with Nigeria. I love Chinua Achebe's Things Fall Apart. That was my first novel, which was for academic purposes. But it didn't feel academic. And the pictures it was painted, obviously it painted rural Nigeria. Yeah. But I think it was the colorful language and some customs and traditions that I could identify with as African. And then, in secondary school, I would have a Nigerian friend. Her father was Nigerian. Her mom was Ghanaian. Has a typical Nigerian name, and how vivacious she was. She was always getting in trouble because it's like, "You're too loud." They were always trying to shut her down. She was full of life. So I'd always been drawn to Nigeria, but we couldn't speak about Nigeria in my family. Yeah, I have my aunt. So that was second generation. My aunt who moved here. I think, was it for marriage or something like that? Never came back. After a while, just incommunicado, and this wasn't even before the Ghana must go era. This was way ahead of. So it's not like she got lost around that time. So Nigeria is a taboo name, taboo subject. But I'm not saying this because I sit in front of you. I mean, my Nigerian friends here would tell you that, and even my contacts I work with in the US will tell you. When I got the opportunity to bid for a country, an African country, to join Ghana in this program, in the spelling bee program in the US, I just said Nigeria. They said, why? I said, Nigeria has the size. Nigerians are hungrier. And I just know that when Nigeria comes to the table, the game changes. Like the standards go higher, is what I've noticed. Nigerians just bring this extra layer. And I think in living here now, I think that I can put it down to how self-sufficient Nigerians have had to become. I mean, Ghana, we depend on our systems to work. I mean, if the lights go out, well, nobody's going to buy a generator. Why should I buy a generator? We pay you, so we will sit in darkness for 3 days till you fix it, and we will keep bothering you. Nigerians, the lights goes off, I have an inverter, I have a generator, I have solar. Nobody's waiting for anybody. And that's one of the things that I so it's like you solve your own problems, because you realize that really in this world, nobody is really going to solve your problems. Sadly, we have people who are elected, allegedly, supposedly, into office, but are not really doing much. And so why depend on them? My personal nightmare in Nigeria was when I was driven through Oshodi Market. Oh my days, nothing prepared me for that. Nothing. Then what's her name? Tenny's song began to make sense to me. I go Oshodi for your case. I was like, oh yes. If I can go through this madness for you, then I must love you. You know. So says, oh, so that's what she meant. I ended up for 3 nights I couldn't sleep just because of the experience I went through. It was nothing. The chaos was. And I had just come into Nigeria. So the chaos, the traffic we were stuck in, people, smudged against the vehicle. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to die today. I'm going to die today. But once I lived through it, I began to adjust, One thing I remember when I was growing up, there was a point in my life that my mother had to go away, and so we had to go stay with her relations. And they would call and tell her, well, she's not eating, she's whining. And my mother would say, listen, why aren't you eating? I was saying, I don't like the food. She said, are they eating it? Yes. Are they, and when they're eating, are they dying? No. Then please. And for me, I've grown with that mentality that so if there are people living here, it's not just they're Nigerian, but if there are people living here, why can't I also live here? And with that, I've been able to, and also try to look at things from the I say that people misunderstand Nigerians. Okay, you've got to live with you've got to live in Nigeria or live with Nigerians to understand. We misunderstand you. The loudness is just from excitement. I see that you're quite just excited about everything, and I also think that a lot of it's how when you are convinced of, you're so steep on what you believe in. It's difficult to move a Nigerian from one mindset to the other because it's worked for them. So why are you telling me otherwise? This has worked, and you've got to prove. Now, if you get them to move, you're good and you're home and dry. You're good to go. But I can also see how being non-Nigerian, and I say I'm non-Nigerian for now. Who's to say? I can see how others don't understand, especially for those of us who are a bit more laid back, quieter. Some will say docile, because that's how we have also been controlled. We've been controlled to think that silence all the time or being docile works. So it's how to just find a common ground. I have Nigerian friends in Ghana who say, Ghana has tamed me so much, I can't go back to Nigeria. I can't live in Nigeria, because you need the fire. If the population of Ghana is about 33, 35 million, that's equal to the population of Lagos. But the size of Ghana is not equal to the size of Lagos. So this is why, and I've been to Abuja. It feels like Ghana. It's quiet. It's very quiet. So we all define Nigeria by Lagos. I was finding out that in Jos, for example, back then, pidgin wasn't a thing. Everybody from Jos typically spoke English. But again, stereotypes. So we've based everything we know on Lagos. Because Lagos...
like Akwa Ibom too. You couldn't speak pidgin. Everything was...
proper.
You had to speak proper English.
Yes, proper English. And so I think that the creative spaces, your creative industry is doing a marvelous job of projecting Nigeria in a positive light. I think, though, that we could do more. I've always asked, like when I first rode, I was being driven over the Lekki, not Lekki Ekpe, no, it's Lekki,
Ikoyi Link Bridge.
Yes. And that's the most it's a beautiful bridge. And then there are all these places like there's the banana, the Banana Island area, and I say, so why don't we see these in your movies? Most of the movies we see, it's indoors, and then we'll just see the Third Mainland Bridge, a picture of it or a moving shot of it, and then they come back indoors. Show us Abuja. Abuja is beautiful, quiet, laid back, but then yes, it's the center of government. It's like going to Washington DC, so we get it. And then comparing New York to Lagos. Yes, we get it. But let's see it. We don't see a lot of that. We see, like I say, the usual chaos in Lagos, which is fun for those who want chaos. But for those who don't really speak that language, and also Lagos is not Nigeria. Lagos is definitely not Nigeria. I've come to experience, even within Lagos, there are quiet enclaves. I like it in Ikoyi. It's relatively quiet. And then there are the noisy places. But the other thing I love about Lagos is how very... Again, what your movies have fed us is that the only food Nigerians eat is jollof. Until I came here and I realized there's other things you do. Italian, there's a plethora. There's so much to be done. But as Chimamanda said, it's the danger of the single story. Nigeria has told the single story in the creative spaces for too long. We need to move on. And so it's either that, what I've just described, or the horror stories, which perpetuates to a large extent the mindset that it's not a safe space. Whatever is happening in Nigeria now, we're all not happy about it, but it's not necessarily safer in the other places we think it is. I mean, in New York, a bullet is flying around every 7 minutes or something like that. So why do we think that it's better out there?
You have fears you will not even entertain here.
Yes.
Yes. And you don't know, especially in particular parts. And these things they're everywhere.
Yes.
There is this notion that there is a subtle, maybe subtle and not so subtle, or increase in anti-Nigerian sentiments in Ghana. Have you seen that?
Yes, I've it's not subtle because of social media. You're seeing it, and you're hearing it. It's unfortunate. It's really unfortunate that and they're stoked by, I say cowards, really. What doesn't help matters is that Nigerians will stand out, will stick out like a sore thumb in Ghana. So then it makes it easy to target you. And then for the kinds of things that the Nigerians, who have stoked, the embers of trouble, let's call it that. I feel like they are not the average Nigerians I've met. The average Nigerians I've met have exposure, so they know when you go into someone's space, you respect their space. The anti-Nigeria sentiments are, again, as I say, are very much stoked on social media. It started as banter, and then now the next thing you know, it's like, well, they've come here and it's almost like they come to take our jobs concept, right? It's as I say, at the citizenry level, it's at best pedestrian, and also speaks to the giantness of Nigeria. Nigerians just know how to do business. When I say Nigerians know how to do business, I'm referring to the business acumen that you do have, that we admire. We do admire it. Some of us get intimidated by it, actually, that, Nigerian businesses came to Ghana and taught us how to do Saturday banking. Nigerian businesses came to Ghana and taught us how to chase the client. Before, banks in Ghana would sit back and wait for clients to come in. The client doesn't come, okay, they'll come anyway because there's just us. Nigerian banks came into the market and basically changed the game, taught us how to. I think that we were psychologically and probably, well, our laws have always been there, but psychologically we were not ready for the Nigerian invasion, let me call it that, in a positive sense, where it's the Nigerian culture of business that we're experiencing. We're not used to it. It basically was disruptive. It's like, what's on? What are you on about? How are you going to the client's office? The way we do it is that we wait and let the client come, And I think that with that, and then the fact that, so apparently our local laws, trade laws, keep some business transactions as a preserve for Ghanaians. And Nigerians find themselves in that space because they can find the products cheaper, is how I see it. Now that I've come to live here, I see that Nigeria has economies of scale. Whatever you're selling in Ghana, they can find it for you 10 times less the price you are offering it at, because the economies of scale is working to their advantage in Nigeria. So even if they put it on a truck to come to Ghana, it's still cheaper. So they realize that this is my thinking. I'm not in the market, but this is my thinking because it's retail. So they realize that, listen, you sell these radios, it's meant to be only Ghanaians who are selling. But people are asking me, one radio to say, this is, let's say, it's 20,000 naira. But when you go to the Nigerian shop, he's selling it at maybe 10,000 naira. Why wouldn't the Ghanaian buy that one? Because at the end of the day, we really just want a value for money.
No doubt.
Yes. And the reason the Ghanaian is selling theirs at 20,000 is not because they just want to sell it at 20,000. But the Ghanaian alone went to China as an individual and purchased it. The taxes and the tariffs that are slapped on it make it that it justifies his price. Now, the Nigerian, I've been to Balogun Market. I go there as a tour. I love it there. It's like, it's a wonder. I hear people come from Togo, from Cameroon, from all over to whole buy from there and then take it back. And so it began to make sense to me. So this is why Nigerians, retailers would sell the same thing at ridiculously, by the Ghanaian standards, ridiculously lower prices. Why is that? Because they got it cheaper. Where I think I think I see the point of Ghanaians is that area is a preserve for Ghanaians, and therefore you should not be here. I see the point in that. But generally we just have, I wouldn't say so much as anti. again, don't forget that we call them keyboard warriors who type vitriol, but when you see them, they're like church mice.
Do you fear trouble looming?
Nah, I don't think so. Okay. Do you know the number of Ghanaian, Nigerian marriages in Accra alone?
I was in Ghana last time. I was in Ghana 2 years ago, I think.
Yeah.
I stayed there for a few days.
Yeah.
Lovely people. I have a lot of friends in Ghana.
Yeah.
Ghanaian and Nigerian.
Yes.
By the way.
Yeah.
So I can understand. Sometimes it's just worrisome, and like you said, sometimes Nigerians don't help Nigeria's cause.
Yes.
Enough.
Yeah.
So we gotta go now. I want to say thank you for everything you do. You brought the global scripts spelling bee to Africa, to Ghana.
Yeah.
And now when you had the opportunity to add one more African country, you chose Nigeria. How's that coming along?
Nigeria. So this will be our second year. It's coming along great. The interest has been encouraging, very encouraging. Or brands. I would say the only challenge we're having, again, become a victim of a successful system. So the thing I told you about Nigerians don't wait for stuff to happen for them. Script Spelling Bee was not in Nigeria. Nigeria created their own spelling. Nigerians created their own spelling competitions. Yeah. So there seems to be a clog of too many spelling competitions. Yeah. So people are not sure when you normally approach them, we've done it before. And then when you sell it to them, explain to them that the difference with this one is not only that you go represent.
This is global. And,
And we need Nigeria at that table for Africa to be noticed. Because when we go as Ghana, we're the first African country. We've been going for almost 20 years now. We still feel lonely. We're not that noticed. And I just know that with Nigeria's participation, it changes the game. We present a more united front. Our numbers are growing. And if you want to grow your numbers, you grow with the larger, because from that pool you will get whatever you find will be close to the best, if not the best. And so, yes, we've had great interest. U.S. Embassy here is supporting the program. They hosted us in the first year at their premises. We have Rotary clubs because one of their tenets is literacy. So, they've jumped on board. Schools are now getting it. So the thing with schools, and that's where I want to kind of just expatiate on a bit, is that they're beginning to learn that spelling and dictation are two different concepts. What has been happening all this while before we came is dictation. A good spelling program will teach the learner the rudiments of spelling. To begin with, the English language in itself is not like a language. It's borrowed. It's borrowed from 13 other origins. Because of that, where the word comes from has a lot to do with how it's spelled and how it's pronounced.
Yeah. The roots of the word, the
etymology
of the word.
So when I first came here, I would see EPE, and I say EP. Where was EP? And you mean Ekpe? I was like, but there's no K there, because in my Akan language, I need to see a K. I need to see a K.
And there are parts of Nigeria too where it must have a K.
Yes. But that's the point I'm making, that it is when you understand, Yoruba, and even SOLA, I said sola. I said it's not sola, it's shola. Where's the H? But so this is why it's important that we don't limit our children to become monolinguals. Yeah. And they are also monolinguals of just the English language. Because when you give to languages, when you speak multiple languages, you understand how languages work. So that. So I get why Shola will be spelled without the H. It's Yoruba. It has other accents that strengthen that sound.
Certainly.
So once you know that, then if you give me any, so now I see Yoruba names, and when I see a K, a P, I know it should be P, and then when I see an S, I know it should be Sh. If it's so long as it's Yoruba, you won't trip me.
It's a beautiful language.
Very beautiful.
You have to even decide whether it's an A or an E sound. There's a little dot. Sometimes you don't see it in writing.
Yes.
Like the Shola you mean. So there is, in the alphabet, there is a C, there's a Sh. It's the same thing. The difference, this one has this little dot underneath it. And so it's beautiful. And those applications matter in understanding spelling bee.
Yes, in understanding
I was
spelling.
telling Yvonne, we were saying, people just come here and just, my words, they just dictate letters.
Yes.
That is not a proper spelling bee. In a proper spelling bee, even the student will challenge the bee master to say, what's the root of that word?
Yes.
You would have to explain it.
Yes.
And you know, you and I are literally from the same school of thought. Some of us had known some of these things, but Aquila and the bees really gave Africans, Nigerians and Ghanaians, I guess,
and
more.
Beninois.
Yes, Beninois, more insight into how spelling bees work. And you know what needs to be done, but most times they are not done.
Yes.
So you are 10 times better than me, frustrated that it's not done right, and I don't feel I've done much about it.
Yeah.
But you took the bull by the horn, 2 decades ago or something, and you're riding strong.
Well, with the help of and the presence of countries like Nigeria, Benin is also clamoring strongly to be a part of it, and it's really the focus is really to produce or to expose our children to global programs.
Yeah,
we need that.
And one day we'll have a champion of the world from this part of the world. So. I mean, look at what Nigerians have done over the years with Scrabble, which is a word game. But I mean, everybody knows that the Nigerian Scrabble players are formidable.
No, but Nigerians are good with language.
Yes,
I just, your vocabulary is what I love. Your vocabulary. I spoke with someone 3 weeks ago, and I was like, "How's your day going?" I said, I'm just trying to gain some traction." I mean, it stayed with me. The imagery, traction, you're pulling into the day. And I think it's got a lot to do with the multitude of languages that we have.
Yeah.
As Africans, it allows your vocabulary is richer. Than when you limit yourself to just the English language, because the English language is not your language.
Yeah, certainly. Is it me? Didn't Davido's daughter win a spelling, or like a segment of spelling?
Not well. It wouldn't be this one because we're relatively new in Nigeria. Okay. But I think I heard that too. Yeah. Yes, I heard that too. Yeah.
So this is the second season.
Yes, this is the second season.
And these kids are vying for an opportunity to represent the continent on the global stage in the US.
Yes.
What city?
Our second time. It'll be in Washington. Washington.
Washington.
Yeah, it's normally in Washington.
When would that be?
This is in May of 2026. Yes, 2026.
So what's the timeline?
So the timelines are normally, so this is our second year. So we're still trying to make sure it sits within the calendar here as well. So, we're straddling. So typically we would enroll would mean you register students from, say, March, April, thereabouts. And then, because people will say, but if it's all the way in May, why are you enrolling in April? Because of preparation.
True.
We need to undo a lot of the learnings that they've done. Our children tend to think that spelling is recitation. So if I say spell psychology, they'll start with SY. Or S. Let me just say they start with S. But so we take them through a lot of training and then a lot of assessments before they actually start the competition itself. And then the national finals for Nigeria is normally held in March.
Brilliant.
And then we go on to the US.
Just in time to be there.
Yeah.
Well done.
Thank you.
Well done. My final question. Do you think, or first, what's your vision for Africa? Do you think we need more women in leadership position? It might sound like a cliche, but I'm interested to hear what you think.
I'm a woman. I'm biased. No, I'm not biased. I think we don't just need women. I think we need qualified women, the same way we need qualified men. Some of the characters we've had, I mean, because if we just want women in leadership,
Certain women who've not helped the cause, huh?
are not helping Tanzania, you know. So it's so that it also speaks to the kind of women we choose, because sometimes it's just to check a box. And then when that box now needs to be opened, it's like a Pandora's box now. We can't believe it. And then all the hard work that has been put in to ensure that women can get to the top just comes crumbling down. I grew up under the era of Flight Lieutenant Jerry John Rawlins, whose wife died and was recently, as recent as today's what, Tuesday? About last week thereabouts, was buried. But she was instrumental. She was the first lady, noticed, the other first lady, but noticeable, of Ghana. And she used her office to the betterment of women and children. The one thing that stands out for me was how she lobbied for for the interstate law to become a thing. Interstate law, because she just saw how life became harsh for women widows. Women widows, for widows. Once their husbands died, that was it. The family just takes everything back, and the women were left with the children. Women in leadership should be a thing. I mean, I think Africa is leading with that, and I'm happy with what we're doing so far. But we need to be intentional in finding the right kind of women. Our Ghana's vice president is a woman, our first ever female vice president, who has a background in education. So you can tell where my biases are leaning towards. But again, as the point I'm making is that very qualified women, and we ask the same of the men as well. But somehow society lowers the bar for men and raises the bar for women. The plus to that is that, therefore, when you do choose a qualified woman, you see it. You see it. It's evident in how the affairs of a country and a continent is run. The downside to that, though, is that we also do know that there are men behind some of these women who will be basically their puppets. So it's how to empower women where we can stand on our own. It's not to say we want to do without men, no. But we need more women in leadership positions, because since the independence of Ghana, we've had men leaders, and whom we say we're proud of. Then we see them sit at the negotiation table, and when they come back, we don't like what we hear. What happened? And so, this is to make a strong case for, yes, more women, but making room for more women to get into governance is another conversation we should have another day.
No doubt.
Yeah.
I'll look forward to that conversation when it's the right time. Eugenia Tachie-Menson. Menson, yes. Yeah. Where did I get Mensa from?
Everybody thinks it's Mensa because it's Ghanaian.
Yeah, Ghanaian. Such a fine pleasure having this sit down with you.
It's my honor. It's my honor to be here. Thank you so much. This was fun.
Well done.